Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Another Dime in the Jukebox. Today, my guest is Christopher Leyva, the lead singer and songwriter and guitarist for the Hollywood based rock band The Falling Doves. Hi, Chris.
Nice to see you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's nice to see you too.
Very good. Sorry it took a little while to get a hold of you this morning, but here I am.
That's okay. That's okay. I was getting a little bit impatient, but I understand that you're busy. So, well, you are worth the wait, though. I gotta say
Ah, you're sweet.
that.
You're way too nice.
Thank you. Thank you. So, without further ado, let's start with the questions and answers. So, how old were you when you first started playing music?
I must have been about. I've always been singing. I'm gonna say since I was very little, and writing songs actually surprisingly since I was about, as far as I can remember, maybe 5 or 6. I've always been writing, lyrics and melodies and songs. But the actual aspect of playing music didn't like touching an instrument to hand, maybe not till I was about 14, I would say. I started later.
Mm, I see. So, you were about 14 then, like you were playing guitar.
Yeah, my mother, I think I asked her for like a classical guitar because one of her relatives used to make guitars in Mexico. So I asked her to see if she could bring me one, and she was able to bring me one.
Mhm.
And that's how I got started. I think I got that. Then that summer I worked to buy like my first electric, and it was like some cheap Yamaha, but it was nice. I got that stolen down the road, but you never forget guitars. It's a very important part of your development, your life, and your hallmarks and things that you do.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. So, at what age did you first started writing songs?
Um, I mean, in the traditional way of things that I sing with the band or that were going to be used for a band, you start right away. I started right away around 14, just writing things. There's journals out there that I have put away, where I was putting together compositions, ideas. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Um, okay, I'm gonna do a little interruption and say, is there any way that you can like check the recording on your end or something because you're a little bit grainy?
Oh, again.
Yeah, not only you look
Yeah, give
like
me 1 second.
smudgy, but you're also like it's a little slow on your end.
Then it's the Wi-Fi. It's definitely the Wi-Fi. Give me a second.
Okay.
It's definitely, that's what I was trying to tell you, that the Wi-Fi is being funny. Okay, this should improve everything. Give me 1 second. So, now we should have uninterrupted fun.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember the very first band that you were involved with?
First band I put together, I think I remember going out to the thrift stores and a couple other shops, and I bought everything. I bought a drum kit, I bought a bass amp, I bought everything that you needed to do a band, even a small PA. And I remember bringing friends that I grew up with and trying to teach them instruments, but nobody had the same dedication or focus to keep going. And that must have been around 16, 17, my first high school band. Never really played a show anywhere. until I think my birthday
Mhm.
of when I was a junior. I think we did a pool party. That's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty early. So,
Hmm.
born in Los Angeles?
So this is the thing. When I was about 14, I spent most of my time in LA, but I would spend most of my summers in LA. So I was there what, June till end of September.
Hmm.
And that became kind of like a hallmark thing all the way until I turned about 20. And then I started going up on my own with the band. Of course, you go play shows and you stay out there. So I've always been back and forth between San Diego and LA until I moved up there a little later down the road. But it's never been a foreign place, I think, growing up because I've spent so much time there. And I think I ended up finding out as I got older that a lot of people that live there, believe it or not, don't know the city. That as amazing as it is and all the things there is to do, or have such a vast appreciation for it.
I
I
would.
think I as an Angelino, I think by spending so much time there and doing so many different things and living in different areas from Glendale to Tahanga till Burbank, Beverlywood, Culver City, what's that other area? Little Armenia.
Mhm.
Once you've lived there, you can claim you've lived there and you've been there because, you can go anywhere you want, but you can't get the city out of you. You know it too good. You know it too well. And it's part of your life, man. It's places you fell in love, places you walked down the street, songs that you wrote, people that you've met, and also friendships. I think that's the thing. People always accuse Los Angeles of being fake and this and this and this and that. And the reality, okay, it can be, but it's kind of like that prissy relative that you have. Like nobody likes that relative. You like them, but other people get all weird about them.
Mhm.
But you understand it. That doesn't mean you tolerate it and you accept the bad stuff they do, but it's family.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't born in Los Angeles, as you know. I came here when I was 18, and I've been living here for, well, like 12 years now. I've been experiencing the nightlife of LA, like the Sunset Strip and like the West Hollywood nightlife and all of that, only for the past 6 years. And
Yeah.
I mean, I can honestly say that it's the realest fucking experience I've ever had because all of the friends that I have right now, all of the friendships that are made are because of, like, I met you in your band and I've met a few of my other friends through going out and listening to it.
And well,
Our,
that's why I play the Sugar Mill, Maria, because I feel like a place like that, it really is. I don't want to say for locals, but it's definitely like a community center. Definitely a place where you can hang out. Because you could play at the Viper Room, but you don't get that one-on-one time with people at the Viper Room.
that's
You
true.
really don't. You're worried about grabbing your crap and moving your car and everybody having to move their cars. And how can you coordinate that? You know what I mean? That's why it was always about the after parties back in the day after the Rainbow or the Whiskey or the Viper. You'd go to somebody's house and you'd continue hanging. I think the pandemic kind of put a big damper in that, and a little bit of that kind of went to hell. But did you ever go to that hotel party that we threw after the Viper at the Hyatt Ride?
No, I don't think I did. I hang out with you guys at the Hyde House a year
Yeah.
ago. Once a year ago, it was when Andre was there. And then
Yeah. So you did come to the after party. Or no, you didn't. Did
no,
you?
I didn't come to the after party. I because I had to work the next day.
Okay, I
Yeah,
remember that.
because you guys, dude, your sets always start at like 12 p.m., which I think is insane. I think
Well,
he.
that's the thing is, I try to play earlier, but here's the deal. Here's the catch. If we play too early,
You go.
yeah, we get a little influx of people, but our friends don't get there till around the right time. I think it's 10:30 to 11. I think the Sugar Mill slot is probably the best one, right? When you've come.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sugar mill it wasn't really that bad. It was totally fine, especially, well, last time I came to see you guys at the sugar mill, I did not have to work the next day, and that's why I could actually afford to stay like past midnight. But I think
Yeah, yeah.
you played earlier than midnight that night anyway. You played at like 10 o'clock maybe. I
10-ish. Ten
Yeah,
15 is what I try to play at. Yeah. That's our slot
yeah,
that we like.
that's definitely a good time slot. But when you were at the Viper Room like this past summer, and I think that the summer before, no wait, you guys played at the Viper Room on October 6th this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Even then, like I did have work the next day, but I was still able to come out and catch your set, even though you performed at like 11 o'clock or something, or 11:30. I don't even remember.
Yeah, yeah. I got
But
you.
anyway, my point is, even though you play late, I'm still able to like catch most of your shows.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate that, man. I think it's good for us. It means a lot because sometimes, a lot of these things are like last minute, and we try to make sure we give everybody, something special in every show. Though we try not to do the same exact show or set list, or you know what I mean.
I
Try to
totally
keep it fresh.
like I do enjoy it when I see you guys on stage, but by that time I've already had a few drinks in me, and let's just say that the booze relaxes me to the point where like it's pretty much just like this one big relaxing blur. And I do like your music, but the thing is, I want to like familiarize myself more with it. Like that's the
Yeah, yeah.
I have listened to your stuff. I think that maybe like a few months ago, I actually listened to some of your albums on Spotify, and I'll continue doing that. It's just that right now I'm kind of trying to listen to the whole Kiss discography, so I'm pretty busy
Yeah,
with
yeah.
that. But I will definitely give you guys a listen.
You know what's crazy about Kiss? They have a lot of they don't have that many singles. They have a lot. They have a big collection of records, live albums, but not too many singles. You know.
It
What
is,
what would you say? You got fucking rock and roll all night.
yeah.
Uh, Christine 16.
Come on, oh my gosh, come on and love me. Um, Hotter than hell.
Uh-huh.
I cannot believe that I'm blanking out on this right now. The list.
But that's the thing, and you're not blinking now. There's really not that many. It's under 10 songs, man.
True.
And for a band that's been around since the 70s,
Yeah, they've been around since like the early 70s, and that's like
you would think that there would be more
there's
content.
and though I mean, it's still like the music, but it's something that I've noticed. Is like they have a large discography, but for the most part, it's like the same songs over and over again.
It's a lot of duds. It's a lot of duds, and you can be sincere with them. But are they a great fucking band live? Yeah. Are they a great showman? Yeah. Great in marketing? Yeah. And saying this to an artist I was working with, you can sit there and focus on having a lot of records. That doesn't necessarily mean people are going to listen, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense.
But however, on the other end of it, um, I think there's artists, for example, that are out there like Alanis Morissette.
Hmm.
She's got a lot of records, but she's out touring right now with just one, the album that made her famous. She's touring again behind that.
Hmm.
You know, you get the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They have a lot of albums
Oh, they do.
that they have out.
They have a whole
So
endless amount of
so
stuff.
they have so they're lucky that they go out, they do their singles, but
Hmm.
they promote some of their newest material too. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I listened to their latest stuff. There is actually really one song that I love that I wanna learn how to do a cover of, and I mean yeah,
Of
there's
the new album.
yeah of their new album. I keep forgetting the name of it, but the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I can name like a long list of their songs that I like, but I can actually never name the actual albums because when I listen to their music, it's like a huge mix stuff.
Those are the album really that counts is Californication. Everything else before that is good, but not wow, and the
Have
stuff like Stadium Arcadium was kind of weird.
I loved Stadium Arcadium. I love that song.
But
It's
I guess
songs.
here's the thing is there was the period where they had was Jane's Addiction in the band, the guy
Dave
from Jane's
Navarro.
Addiction, Dave Navarro. That
I
was in a bad era,
the aeroplane.
but I think one of the best era, like, and it's like chemistry, it's like us with Mike, he comes and goes whenever he, has time,
Uh-huh.
and the band sounds different when Mike's in the band.
Hmm.
It's got a different sound,
Hmm.
but when he leaves, it's a different thing. It's not bad, but it's different,
Hmm.
and you notice that Andre will be doing a little bit more bass with the band, and it changes the sound,
Hmm.
based on what members you have in the music. So that's the thing for me. And I didn't quite understand it till I started listening to the work with what's the name of the guitarist that's in the band now? The
Uh,
one's always been in it.
John Frusciante.
Mm-hmm. And he really brings it to another level. That's his band, man. And he's their guitarist. And the thing is, yeah, they both can do alone good, but together they create a force to reckon with. And I think that's why I'm impartial to the records that he's not on. If and I guess that's more as a writer and musician of preference. You like coffee with sugar and I don't, that type of thing. But it's not nothing to do with whether it's good or not. It's just personal preference.
That's true. That's true. I mean, like,
Yeah, yeah.
I listen to the Chili Peppers. Like the first foremost thing that I always listen for is Anthony Kiedis's vocals or his raps. I was like,
Hmm.
I love Anthony Kiedis's voice and I love their lyrics. But something that I want to like pay more attention to now is how the band sounds like when John Frusciante is in it and how it sounds when Dave Navarro's in it. Like I said, I fucking love Aeroplane. It's one of my favorite Red Hot Chili
Yeah.
Peppers. But then again, it's a long list.
Yeah, and you got to remember when Dave's in the band, it's a different fusion, it's a different gig, and Dave is just there to do the job. I think as a session guitarist, when you join a band, bands will tell you, "Oh, you just do whatever you want," and then you try to do whatever you want, and then it starts eclipsing kind of what the band is, or doing something completely off the subject, and then they go, "No, no, 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 just do it like the record," and you're like, "Oh, okay." So I think by default he tries to respect the music for what it is and doesn't go out of the realms. I think when you go back into like the 60s and you got the Beatles, and when Eric Clapton would sit in with the Beatles, or you hear him in songs that the Beatles have,
Mhm.
all of a sudden you're listening to something, you're like, oh, wow, that's not George Harrison. That's fucking nuts. What is that? And you hear the work. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I wouldn't say Dave has a signature sound like Eric Clapton, where oh, that's Eric Clapton, or Jimi Hendrix, or oh, that's Jimmy. John Frusciante does. You know who else does? Tom Morello does. The guy that just died, Eddie Van Halen does. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So there's signature sounds, and I don't think that you're not gonna hear something out of the pocket when you hear it with Dave. Not that Dave's not a great musician or guitarist, but he's just filling the spot, so it's not empty. But he's not going out of his way to create magic.
That makes
And
sense.
that's because it's a fucking job, You don't want to, he knows his job's there for a bit. He's not there fully committed because he's in his own band.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I've been needing to check out Jane's Addiction for like years now. I think I checked them out once, maybe a while ago, like a couple of years ago, maybe. But it had never really like left much of an impression on me. But I kind of want to check them out again.
They're a good live band. They are, they represent everything you loved and hate about the Sunset Strip.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like for us musicians, music and everything changes formats, but it doesn't change the vibe. And the vibe, it's like, okay, you got the 60s kids that still hang around the Hollywood scene. You got Robbie Krieger, and a couple of the other Laurel Canyon people that come down and jam and rock out. And obviously, you got the Birds type of stuff, that hippie stuff, kind of Tom Petty-ish, right?
Hmm.
There's that Hollywood scene. Then we have the big hair Tommy Lee scene with, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the hair.
Mudley Crew, the hair metal kids. It's still, and you still see bands roaming around Hollywood with that vibe. You've seen it. People walking around dressed with the hair and the tight pants and the leather jackets. So there definitely is a rite of, um, I would just say, transcendence from genres, but that are still living and breathing today. Then you got the electronic kids or the hip hop kids walking around now. You know what I mean? Outside the Roxy with their little track jackets and bling bling everywhere and big glasses and
Yeah.
big flashy cars. And
I
and
don't
I
think
think you get the mution of
kids outside the Roxy. It's mostly just the crowd, with the spiky, punky hair and the ripped, uh, ripped jeans and the ripped jean jackets and the leather jackets with spikes. You see
well,
a lot.
it's like a lot of the clubby kids too, because there's a nightclub upstairs that caters to that market, that just caters to there was the Bootsy Belows Club. Remember that?
Wait a minute. Is that the one that's upstairs at the Rainbow or?
No, no, no. Bootsy Belows is downtown. Then they have another place right on the Sunset Strip. I'm trying to think of what it's called. It's Oak Barrel or something. Oak is what it's called.
I have never been there.
And
I
that's like a full on nightclub, like, you know what I mean? Like Puff Daddy, like that type of stuff where you have,
Yeah, the
you
only
know,
nightclub
Kanye.
that I know of, I mean, I definitely know about Hyde. I think that I wanna kind of like try it out, but I have a feeling that if I actually went there, I'd be bored.
Well,
Besides,
because you got to understand it's the Sunset Strip and the West Hollywood. If you have a knife and you cut rock and roll right in half, the knife would hit right there. And when I say right in half, separating all the trendy, and when I say trendy, I don't mean trendy cool. I'm talking about like the rich kids that just want to go clubbing.
mhm,
If you cut the knife right there in half, it would cut right there with the Viper Room is on the way up towards what is that place called? The Rainbow and everything else on that side.
uh-huh,
So by default, there's a whole club scene that lives there.
mhm,
That's not part of our scene, but it's still there. And on the other end, it's not. It's dirty and gritty and homeless, and you know what I mean?
mhm,
Not rock and roll.
yeah,
So it's interesting to see those two scenes playing together. You know what I mean?
mhm.
In one area.
It's definitely interesting, yeah. And you got the Laugh Factory over there as well. So, yeah,
Hmm.
the Laugh Factory. I haven't been there in a long time. I don't really have time to like go out. I mean, unless I'm seeing my friends. Like I have musician friends that have shows at least like a couple times a month, at least like every other week.
Yeah.
If I'm going out, I'm going out to see my friends play. I don't really have time or money for anything else. So
No, no, I got you. But let's stick to the questions. I keep
yes,
kicking you out of the subject, but
that's okay.
where
That's
were we at?
yeah. I could think of something, but okay. So before the Falling Doves, were you involved in any other bands or musical projects in Los Angeles?
Yeah. The band that made it up there that we were doing a bunch of things with was called Revolution '89.
Uh
And
huh.
that was a two-piece band. It was me and a girl. We were a two-piece for a long, long time. Lemmy from Motorhead came out to a few shows. Check out the band. We're
Wow.
just we're just a little harder, kind of like White Stripes meets um, a more poppy element to it. So it was cool. It was definitely a good time, a good feel.
Yeah, I think that I found them. I think I found that band on Spotify. So
Yeah,
check it out. Revolution '89. You said it was called.
yeah, yeah. And we got to talk about Spotify because I always try to educate editors, music enthusiasts, and people. I remember you saying, "How come you don't like putting all the stuff on Spotify and this and that?" I go, "The thing is remember we are doing the video right now, right?
Yes.
And when I didn't have the Wi-Fi going proper, what happened to the video quality? It wasn't good. It was grainy.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Exactly.
that's the same reality when we're talking about music, if that makes any sense. So Spotify takes away the quality. And to give you an example, all you got to do is listen to Apple Music, the same song, I promise,
Hmm.
on both formats, and you're going to notice a massive difference. Massive. So I try to steer people away from going to Spotify only because of that reason, because the sound quality is terrible. And for us as musicians, we spend hours and hours getting the sound right, capturing the sound into a recorded format for you guys to listen to the vision that we create, only for it to be diluted. Number one, for someone first listening to the Falling Doves on Spotify and coming to our music and just listening to it for the very first time, and it's horrible. Not horrible, but the resolution is bad.
Hmm.
It's a big turnoff. You know, but most people don't know the difference. That's the reality. But once you show them the difference, it's like the Coca-Cola Pepsi thing, and you go, "Oh wow, this is different." You know what I mean?
I like both Coke and Pepsi, and I have listened to music on both Spotify and Apple Music. I mean, I don't listen to Apple Music that much because I cannot figure out how to play songs on Apple Music
You'd
without
have to have a membership. That's what's
without having to
terrible.
like yeah without like fucking paying for them because I do have a Spotify subscription. Otherwise, like if you don't
Yeah.
have a subscription, you have to listen to those ads like every two songs. So and it's a pain in the ass. And I've been listening to music on Spotify for the past 6 years, and honestly, I don't even mind paying for it because it's like, in my opinion, Spotify is the best thing that could have happened to people who love listening to music. You know?
Yeah, because it makes it convenient. It makes it easy to
Exactly.
transport. But remember, before Spotify existed, we used to have Pandora. And the thing is, for you to understand, for us when we're uploading our material on Spotify, like I wish that you guys, as listeners, when you guys are paying a membership, wouldn't you want to receive something that's worth your money versus something that's just something basic because they can? I think that people that are paying should maybe get a higher version of the song, like a higher resolution version, and the people who are not, just give them whatever you want to give them. I think that's how that would be a happy medium. I know that they're. I mean, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I know that they're working on taking them down entirely. So you know, I'm sure there's going to be a new medium coming back up with higher resolution material like Tidal. And I know this because when I upload the material, it gives me the format, and Spotify just wants MP3s versus Apple will not accept it unless it's this high caliber and resolution for it to be uploaded. It's not funny.
I see. Well, okay,
Yeah.
so definitely makes sense. But I mean, I gotta actually listen to music on Apple Music in order to really understand.
Yeah. I think it's just good since we're doing this interview for people to take away little things, about the industry that they can apply to their music or
Yeah.
listening. Hmm. What's the next question here that we got?
So the next question is, what year were the Falling Doves formed?
So the original format was 2013. I was in England, in London,
Uh-huh.
and I had signed with an indie label out there. So I had taken all of my catalog as a solo artist and from other bands that I've been in, and we were creating because they didn't want me as a solo artist. They said, we'd do better with the band name. So they wanted me to create a band name to record these songs with. So I went in the studio to re-record different singles from all the different bands I've been in, and we put together. So essentially, the first Falling Doves record is like another singles collection of all of my work,
Uh-huh.
re-recorded with a band to have like a fresh sound versus sound like different bands. And that's how the idea in the band was born in England.
Nice, nice. Okay, did the lineup of the Falling Doves change a lot throughout the years?
No, it's always been me and Mike. I think Mike and I put the band together in Hollywood
Uh-huh.
to record.
You said.
And I mean, when we're putting it together, when you look at other classic lineups or bands, you go through the different members till you find the right feel. The original lineup was me. No, it was Michael, myself, Cameron is the name of the drummer, and Stefano from Italy.
Mhm.
And the beauty about the band is that as the band expanded and grew, we got to a situation where there was more gigs that we had that could allow everybody's schedule to happen. And the only two members that were able to do anything always was just me and Michael. So we'd fly different places. It's cheaper always for two people, and we'd borrow different musicians in different uh, places we flew to. Whenever we can bring the full lineup of the band and the promoter pays us right, then we can afford to bring the original lineup. The last tour that we did in England, not this, because we did two tours of England this year. So the first one, I was able to bring the original lineup of the Falling Doves out there with Stefano, Mike, Greg, and myself, and we did about 3 weeks of gigs. It was a lot of fun to bring that original lineup touring. But because Stefano has a lot of family commitments, it's hard for him to leave his hometown. The original drummer, like I said, in that band, Cameron, had kids, so he could never tour anymore, and Greg is definitely, he's toured all over the place, works on a lot of the recordings. And we do have another touring member that doesn't get to tour with us as much because of commitments as well, which you haven't met. You like him a lot. His name's Francesco. He's also a drummer in the recordings.
Nice.
So most of the albums, most of the live albums feature Greg, and all the studio stuff features Francesco.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like just a big expanded family of members, So, you've met Andre. Andre and I rode Skylark 69
Mhm.
with Francesco on drums. You know what I mean? But Greg plays the songs live. You know what I mean? So it's that whole dynamic of who wants to make a record and who's ready to go, and cool, who wants to come on the tour, cool, and we put a conglomerate. This Australian tour that's coming up right now,
Mhm.
I'm not bringing, I don't even know who's going to come. And if no one's going to come, I'm going to have to use members down there to back me up on those gigs. You know what I mean? But it's about bringing the music of the band to these countries. There was an article that got published today where an artist like Lorde, a singer, I'm sure you heard of her.
Who she is, yeah. I love Royals. It's actually
She
one
was
of my records.
she was complaining about touring and the touring industry and the state of the touring industry, and how come a lot of tours have had to be canceled because of mental health or budgets or costs or everything that's set up with setting up a tour and a gig. And you ask yourself, well, obviously, for example, for me, for a show, which I'm not really allowed, I'm not going to say who, but a show that usually pays us $1,500 for a show, for a set, 145-minute set. Right now, they can only pay us $5.
Mhm.
Obviously, 5 divided by 3 internationally is not a lot of money. Even for 4, it's just not enough. So I have two choices. I could go out of pocket and bring everybody and come back under, or I can use, local musicians,
Mhm.
still get the job done, make sure people see the music, see the band, and bring a version of the music out there so they can, listen to sing the songs. You get a band like, for example, Liam Gallagher, that's out touring all over the world right now.
Mhm.
He used to be in Oasis. Oasis broke up.
Mhm.
So, there he is killing it, and it's just him. He's not even bringing the original writer or any of the other band, but it still brings the spirit and keeps the spirit alive. And I think right now that the situation in the industry is very, very bad, it's still very important for independent artists like us versus a big band to stay on the road, to keep the music alive, to keep the songs going. And I think as the singer and lead singer, it's in the word, you have an obligation to front the band, and keeping the legacy of the music alive, and it's a plus and a bonus when the boys can be on the tour because you get, and you've seen the band with Mike and without Mike, it's two different things, you know, but it's definitely a treat to be able to bring one of the guys out there because they get a little extra with the show. I always tell people that the best to catch a real show, it's weird too, Maria, because I think the best shows of the Falling Doves are not in Hollywood. They are in Hollywood in the aspect that you get a more relaxed show where we're having fun and we're just relaxed and we're just jamming on some covers and our own stuff,
That's
but once we leave LA, it's not like that. Like in England, if you want like a more orchestrated show with the visuals and the screens and that, as you say, a performance where we're in character and we come out and we go to England. If you want a full overall best sound, best video, like video visuals and best performance, go to Japan.
Well, that's actually what I was just thinking. Like,
Yeah,
I want to see you guys, like, if I want to see a different quality of a show, I would actually have to get out of LA, but that may be a
fly
little,
out to a different country to catch a different show.
yep.
And that's where I was going with it. I feel like a lot of artists right now are complaining about ticket prices. Isn't that? Look, man, fucking scale it down. Take it down. Be fucking creative. You're an artist. You're supposed to reimagine the show. One of the best artists that I've seen that does has the ego, yes, because you have to have a certain level of ego, I think, to magnify your essence
Uh,
onto the stage.
Starting to work.
But but you still have to have a level of humbleness to also break down your work. And one of those people that I've seen that does that is Lady Gaga. You've seen her out there with a full rock and roll band, not rock and roll, but you know what I mean, the
Mhm.
the full production with the costumes and the elaborate shit. But
Uh-huh.
you know what? She did a whole tour as well where it was just her, a piano, and a small little band
Uh-huh.
in little tiny clubs like the Sugar Mill. And I think that's important for an artist because you have a responsibility to your audience and to your music to make sure that fucking music gets out there. Because if not, you know, that's how an artist dies, man.
Makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Next
Hmm.
question. So, you were the main songwriter of the Falling Doves, right?
Yeah, no, lyricist and composer.
Okay. So, what inspires you to write your lyrics? Like, where do you get your inspiration usually the best?
Here's the thing, I think when we were talking when I was younger, I spent so much time perfecting the craft, working with other really well-known songwriters and musicians that it got me to this point. I remember one job I had for MTV. I used to sit down and just write songs and write songs and write songs and write songs. And after a while, there is a level of, and I mean, the Beatles are guilty of it. There's a level of, I don't even know if this is a term or a terminology, but I'm going to use it. There's a level of roboticism
I see.
where it's like a fucking machine and you just got to fill in the spots. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So I have constant melodies all the time of ideas and songs. For example, last night I was driving down the road, and so I'm supposed to work on a record this week, and I just started writing songs last week for it. They don't exist. Just started putting ideas together, and I just sit down, pull the guitar out. I already have some lyrics,
Mhm.
and I think it's become so mechanical in the aspect that I've done it so much that it comes naturally. A
Mhm.
lot of people always go, "Oh, well, you write them so fast, they don't mean a lot." Actually, no, not necessarily. I think I've worked in my craft long enough. I've understood the message, the poetry, the art of composition enough to be able to deliberate deliver faster on the message that I'm trying to convey, instead of sitting in there like a lot of people do. I go, what are we writing the song about? Cool, and that's who makes it, man. You know, like the Rembrandts who wrote the song from TV show Friends. You know, a big inspiration. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
There you are. Sorry, there's another phone ringing. The inspiration for like the TV show Friends, right? You got a great band like that. They were given a task. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah.
They were given a task. They were, you know, I remember I was sitting in his house, and I remember waking up in his house and seeing all these gold records all over the house, and I was right there on the floor, and because we passed out, we were going to party. And this is how I remember, you know, I spent a week with the guy from the Rembrandts, and I was there to write some songs with him. And it's almost like it felt like the Karate Kid, because I'm, you know, I'm excited, like the guitars are like in the walls, so I'm ready to pull a guitar out and just start working on the song. And then I go up to the guy, I go, "Hey, how did you write that song?" "Oh, don't worry, we'll get to that." I go, "Okay." So then we go out for a walk, meet his friends, go to a music store, check out some guitars, go out to eat, get some drinks, and then we go. He goes, "Hey man, do you want to go check out some chicks?" I go, "All right, let's go." You know, so we go out to the nightclub, and then we come back and fucking hammered as fuck, and then we go to some after party. Okay, this shit went on for like 5 fucking days.
Holy shit! Did you ever go to sleep?
Well, I didn't even drink that much, you know, and so and every morning I'd wake up on the floor with the gold records. It felt like Groundhog Day, you know. And the next day, he come out with his coffee. Real funny, come out with his coffee, and he'd look at me. Yeah, he'd be like, "Good morning, how you doing down there? Take some water, you know." And he passed me some water. It's like, you ready? You ready to go out again? Yeah, let's go get some breakfast. We'll talk about what we're gonna do. You know. So this shit went out over and over. And I think like the fourth day, I was like, "Hey man, like, you know, we're here to write some songs." And I flew out here to make some music with it. I was so upset because, you know, I've always been very serious about the gig. And he goes, "You got to relax, man. Like, it's natural. It should not be forced, man." You know, and he's right. It should be. And you know, it's like if you watch a Karate Kid in the '80s when Mr. Miyagi's having the kid do the wax on, wax off.
I remember that from Cobra Kai.
At the end of the movie, you learn why, because this is block, 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 you know. But it doesn't make any sense till the end of the fucking thing. So with the same thing with the composition with this guy. Hell, okay. So what we're doing now, that whole time, I was experiencing life. I was living. I was hanging out with things. I was getting to know him as a human being. He was breaking down walls to be more comfortable, to create together, to be on a different level. So it wasn't a fucking job. Does that make sense? And by the time we got to the composition part, all of a sudden I remember he pulls down the guitar. He's like, "All right, let's work on the song." And I was like, "Oh fuck," you know, like, and I was like, "Oh," but you know, I wasn't blank because we had been hanging out together long enough. And I'll tell you what, the sessions, there was no drinking or nothing. And we got down to the fucking gritty, and we wrote the fucking 3 songs in one fucking day.
Nice.
And recorded them. Nice. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that, you know, you learn that you don't need to be that much in your fucking head. You know, you get these fucking so-called fucking poets, you know, that, "Oh, you know, it has to be inspirational, or it's not gonna," I go, fuck off, man. You know, it's just a fucking song. People want to fucking rock. That's it. People want to shake their fucking head, and you want some good lyrics to go with it that makes them think, but not too serious, because that's live. We don't want to be too fucking grim. We don't want to be too sad. We want to just kind of be like right here. This is, you know, life should be like that. Keeping it right here, not down here, not up there, like right here, where it's real, and it means something, but not too fucking weird that you don't know what the fuck the guy's singing about. You know what I mean? But relatable enough that it stays and everybody can sing about the music and have it mean something and just be able to have a good fucking time. Watch the fucking when we play live, the people are fucking having a good fucking time because the songs are they want to dance and they want to fucking rock out.
They definitely are having a
Yeah.
good time. I mean, the alcohol doesn't hurt either.
No,
I
no,
especially love
that's
when
it.
you guys do your Beatles covers. I mean, honestly, holy shit. It's like, dude, you and I have been friends for like 5 years already, and I've been going to see your shows like whenever you play in LA. Like basically. I honestly the only song of yours that I like actually like know probably Paris. And that's why
Yeah.
I always like keep telling myself that I should listen to more of your music so I can get like more familiarized with it.
Honestly, like I've done the job for you. If you download the album, the Fallen Dove singles collection, Love at First Bites, which you have a copy of it. I know you do. You have a
I
CD.
do have a copy of it. I gotta look
That's it. I've done the job for you. You got Glass of Wine, Love on the Runway, Paris,
yeah, and love
Shotgun, Dialing You, Art of Letting Go. You know, these are like classic anthems that you sing along and rock out to, and you're more along the way, you're going to have a good time. You know what I mean? They're
okay,
good workout, driving,
exactly.
making love music. You know what I mean?
I'm already having a good time at your shows, dude. I already am.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So with the composition part of it, I think the ending of it, um, I'm always writing, I'm always putting ideas together, but I like to finish things. So, like I said last night, 10 o'clock, I got an idea for a song, came home, sat down with it, took me about 5, 6 minutes to find the music that matched the chords and the melody, then put it all, composed it, went back again for another revise and re-recorded it. And now I have the demo of it. And now the song, it lives. Does that make sense? And that's how I work. But a lot of people can do that. I've written with Andre, and he's a phenomenal fucking writer and musician. But he has to get his ass kicked a little bit to get his lyrics and chords together right. He's a lot of artists I've noticed are too in their head. So it's hard to get them to this part. And you can still, it's just, I'm not a big crazy chakra believer, but it is definitely an alignment and flow where you have to have your brain chakras, your head chakras, your heart chakras, and your throat chakras working together to get the messages out as
Mhm.
fast as it can work. And I at least that part I got going. I've developed that art form to be able to deliver constantly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, next question. So the Falling Doves toured a lot in Europe as well as Asia. Like, what countries have you toured at, like, overall? Because I know that you've also been to, like, I think Greenland and stuff, and Australia. And so basically, which countries have you been to? And what's your favorite touring location?
Wow, I got it even better for you. Give me 1 second again.
Okay.
You gotta remember, as you play music, you get older, so you forget things. So you gotta constantly write them down, and there's always new things to update to your catalog in life. Let me see what I can do here. This is gonna be good. All right. Have you gotten this book?
I do have this book. Yes, I have it
Yeah.
on my bookshelf. I have to look at it more.
And that's the thing is you forget. So the band has had 5 world tours.
Uh-huh.
This is including this one that we're on right now. England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Australia, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Mexico, Switzerland, France, Japan, Thailand, Brazil, Iceland, and here in lovely USA. We've been about just about every state you could think of.
I see. Wow, nice. Nice. Yeah, like a lot of open countries, and
Yeah, and if the pandemic hadn't fucking fucked us all, we would have made it to China, and we were gonna go to China and Singapore and Dubai, and things are a little rough, and we were going to Ukraine, believe it or not.
oh wow, nice.
Yeah, but because things went down, we had, you got to be smart too.
Mhm. Actually, I feel so spoiled living here in LA because I feel like over the past couple of years, at least, I mean, over the past year, technically, at least the situation with the live music at the clubs has
Yeah,
sort of returned to normal. I mean, you don't like the shows are still open. You can go. You don't even have to wear a fucking mask anymore. They don't even check
correct.
for like vaccinations or anything because well, I do remember that like a year ago they would check your cards to see like if you've been vaccinated, and if you haven't been, they wouldn't let you in. And now, I mean, I went to see Motley Crue, Def Leppard, and Poison at the shit the SoFi Stadium. It was like
Hmm.
at the end of August, and they didn't even check me for like fucking vaccinations. So I feel so spoiled because I feel like here in LA things have like returned to semi-normal.
They have a little bit of wiggle room. you know,
Mhm. And
I'm gonna say this. I miss it. I miss being home as much as I used to be. The pandemic changed a lot of things for me because I had to give up my full-time place in LA entirely when the pandemic started. It's just too expensive to keep up two places to rent. You know what I mean? So I was renting a little place by the beach here in San Diego, or that place up there, and I had to get rid of both of the places. And I had a little bit of money, so I go, well, I'm going to use the little bit of money I have to invest in my family's house, just keep building into it. And it's better use of money. You know what I mean? And because we're still in, as they say, we're still in the pandemic. We're not out of it yet, but it's a definitely different scale and level of it. And I think we have to be smart about how we use our money while still, like you said, going out to concerts and doing different things, and also just being lucky that we have it like we do. There's a lot of people out there that are waking up to bombs and figuring out how they're going to eat, and that still has to stay in our head. But it also doesn't, unfortunately, and then it sounds terrible, but it shouldn't necessarily dominate our everyday existence because things are always changing. And tomorrow you could get hit by a car. And if you sat there worrying about everything else that was going on in the world, you miss out about the amazing things as well going on in your life.
exactly.
So I think it's good to be informed. It's good to be educated. It's good to share and do your part, but also not sit there in this panic. And you saw that during the pandemic, how many people you saw the best and the worst people. There's people that freaked out about everything, about going out and almost killing each other if somebody wasn't wearing a mask. It was bad.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I didn't actually really specifically see that. And right around the time when the pandemic started, I started working at a gas station and I stayed there for a year, for the next year and 4 months. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty like large part of the pandemic. So I mean, I've seen most of it, and I have definitely been there when like everyone was like literally wearing masks like everywhere. Like we had like a lot of customers, like even though like during the weekdays and like especially on Saturdays at the gas station, we still had a lot of customers, like especially on weekends. But everyone
Yeah.
was still like wearing masks and shit. But it's like yeah, you definitely can't be like you can't let it stop you from living your life. And like
No, that's how that goes.
yeah, yeah, like you can't help but move on because there's nothing else to do.
What other questions you got in your pocket of questions? Let's go.
Sorry. Oh, by the way, dude, we've been going at this for like an hour and a half now. Are you fine on time? Do you have to like?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I hope you're going to be able to edit some of this stuff.
Uh, uh I'm not gonna be editing it. I didn't even start recording until you and I began the questions, so there's really not much to edit. I do have
Okay.
to edit at some point though, but right now, okay. So, house playing in the U.S. states and Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Oh, okay. How is playing in other US states and in other countries different than playing in LA?
Well, I remember working with a record label, and I remember working with the music director there, the radio program director, and he said something to me that I never forgot, which still remains true. He said, Christopher, 60% of the market in the United States is country.
Uh-huh.
30% of it is hip hop and R&B and electronic stuff. And only about 10% of that is acoustic, and the last 7% is rock and roll.
That's so sad.
And it is. And when you really look at the maps, like, I can't look at it because I'm on the phone with you, but if we look up like the Rolling Stones, you look up Kiss, you look at even bands like Slayer or um, what's another band? McCartney, Elton John. Look at the cities they're touring, because that will tell you where people are buying rock and roll.
I see.
And it's not that many. I can name them: Cincinnati, Ohio, or Detroit, fucking upstate New York. You got Atlanta and a few other parts in the Midwest. A little bit here in the Californias, but even a lot of bands stopped touring in San Francisco, in that area, because people just don't go.
Mhm.
You know. And but the heartland of America still loves their rock and roll, like Nebraska and some of the middle ground. I would say the founding fathers of rock and roll, when they were doing their first, um, how would you say? There's a word that you call it. You use it to describe the thing that you do when you go down to Jerusalem. What is that thing called where you do the? I can't think of that word right now. Basically, when you're doing these, I want to use this the wrong word, but when you're doing these tours
Mhm.
of these areas, you would follow either Route 66, or you would take down the Mississippi all the way from Chicago all the way down to New Orleans. And that was the rock and roll tours. They all followed that format.
See.
Eventually, people started flying around. But if you still look at a lot of those formats, it's still the same these days. Believe it or not, those areas are still hot. And I think because they're so embedded into the root and the soul of that area, that's why it still continues to be what it is. I think for us, places that we can compare, when people come to England, they come for quality, they come for the lyrics, and they sit down with you and they talk to you about the songs, they talk to you about the composition still today. They'll go, I really like the lyrics of this song, and they know every fucking word,
Mhm.
you know. And here that we play more than we do there, on a constant basis, people just like rocking out, like you said, and it's drinking music to them. Um, in Japan, they have a higher level of appreciation for the songs. They know the songs by titles, and I think that's definitely what we go out to do. We want people to care and love the music that we make, and if they can sing along, that's a bonus.
Yeah, definitely always is. Okay. Um, hmm. So, when you're touring in other countries, do you have a lot of time to sort of like explore the scenery, or are you pretty much just like moving on from gig to gig?
We had to start doing a little bit of that a few years ago. I think the third tour, we noticed we weren't seeing anything. One, because we were in a really tight budget. Two, because of the time allowed. But we realized that we're only here for a little bit of time. And what's funny? I would always tell the boys, guys, we got to appreciate the moment that we have, that we're here in a different part of the fucking planet. We flew all the way across the fucking planet. And, I know we have jobs, girlfriends, things to come back to, but we're also alive as human beings, and we have to enjoy this moment. I go, so I'm going to make sure the tours are a little bit longer so we have a little bit of time to sightsee, integrate in the community, get to know people, do stuff. Just like there's a Maria here in Hollywood, we have a Maria in Japan too.
Really?
We have a Maria too in Australia, one in England. You know what I mean?
So
But we
are
wouldn't have met that
all
person.
nice? Are they all named Maria, or is
No,
it
no,
like a metaphor? Or
it's a metaphor, which is just a friend of the band that comes to the shows, supports the shows, promotes the shows, and doesn't miss any of the shows. And but we wouldn't have made any time like that with these people. Imagine if we played the show and just took off immediately. We'd have no time to really create, ambience and community.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
so that's where we're at.
Well, I mean, you guys are definitely doing that. Like, I can see how you would have fans like that, or a fan like that, pretty much like everywhere you go, because that's how I met you guys. I mean, you and I met at Maui Sugar Mill, and I remember that we started talking at one point. I cannot for the life of me remember what you and I talked about, but next
Oh,
time,
we talked about. I know exactly what it's for. It is, but
what
I'm
did
not
we
gonna
talk
say
about?
it. No, we're not gonna go down that road because we've already gone to therapy about this woman. So let's continue.
That's
Ah,
not what you and I talked about when the night that we met. I came to Maui Sugar Mill to see her, yes,
yeah.
but that's not how you and I, like, when you and I met, we're all like standing with a group of people by the bar talking. And I remember that at one point, like, you looked at me and like you asked me my name, and like then I answered, and you and I like started having a conversation. And the next thing I know, we're friends on social media, and I came to see you play at Whiskey, I think it was the first time that
The
I saw
whiskey,
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
whiskey, and then that bowling alley down there in
yeah,
Hollywood. Remember that
yeah.
bowling? That was a
I did.
great fucking venue, huh?
It is. Yeah, it is. Dude, I haven't been there in a while. Yeah.
What's the place called?
Uh, holy shit. What's it? Yeah, the fucking bowling alley.
Not Brooklyn Bowl, right? It had its own name.
No, 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 no.
We played so many shows there, and I can't even remember it. What we had so much fun in there. That was a good venue, man.
Hmm. Okay, I'm googling it right now. It's the Lucky Strike Live.
Lucky Strike Live. That's right.
That's a great place.
Great fucking place.
It is.
Let's continue. What else do we have for questions?
Next question. Okay. So you have stayed in Liverpool shortly after the pandemic began for quite some time. How come you stayed there for such a long time, and what projects were you working on?
I've been going back and forth there since 2010,
Hmm.
and I have a good little community of friends and family there now. So it's not, what's strange? It's more out of everywhere that I've tour and play, including San Diego and LA. I have more friends there now
Oh,
than I
really?
do anywhere else in the world. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just home. It really has become home. And if it wasn't for all the different dynamics and changes, I would have just stayed there full time. But right now it's important to keep going back and forth between the different places. But eventually that's where I'm gonna stay at. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're planning on like moving there, like permanently?
I had already moved there when the pandemic started, but some things brought me back here, like family stuff. So
Well, I hope you don't move to England. I mean, like honestly, when you said that you were staying in Liverpool, I remember it was like 2 years ago. I
yeah.
honestly like I was fucking crying. Like I did not fucking want you to be there. And so
Oh, stop it.
no, dude, I was. I really was. Like you're like one of my closest friends that I have in California. And San Diego is already far enough. Please don't move to Liverpool.
Eventually, it's nothing you can't stop. We're all gonna die one day. So
Mm,
but
stop.
I gotta show you. I gotta show you some really fucking cool.
Oh,
So I got to participate in this project that's honoring a musician that used to play with the Beatles out there who died, right?
mhm.
And so they're building the statue. So I got to model for the statue. Look, they sent me a copy.
Nice. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Holy shit. So they're gonna have a statue of you in Liverpool?
Well, this is not really me. This is Stuart Sutcliffe, the original bass player of the Beatles. But
Oh my gosh.
I
Oh,
got, but I mean, in
that's
one side, when you look at it, it's going to look like me, and the other side, it's going to look like him.
see. Nice. That's awesome.
So again, when you ask me why I'm moving there, now, come
Oh,
on.
I see it. Yeah, I can see it. I definitely see the face. The profile looks a lot like yours.
Go for it. Continue on, my dear.
Next question. So, how exactly are you involved with Pete Best, and what role does he play in your work?
Wow. Well, now we're going back to, I'm going to go as far as you can. When I was about 13 or 14, there's people that when they first discovered the Beatles in 1962, 63, or 64, 64 when they went, on national television on the Ed Sullivan Theater, everybody discovered the Beatles, I think, around the world there. Just about every singer artist that you know today with watching that show. For me, I picked up the first copies of the Beatles and good fucking music, good fucking songs, good fucking recordings. But to be sincere with you, there was something missing. And I kept researching, and I was real young. Back then, we didn't have the computers, we just had the library. So I went and got books, and I found the coolest fucking image of the Beatles that you could think of. And it was them at in Germany in leather jackets, fully covered in leather. It was almost like you were looking at the early Rolling Stones pictures. And wow, I don't know, I only recognized John, Paul, and George, but there was another guy on bass that was Stuart, and there was another guy on drums that was Pete. And I was like, that's the band I want to be in. Because that's the reason why you get the Falling Doves to wear leather jackets, because of that band.
Uh-huh.
You know, we always wanted to, I've always been a big fan of the original Beatles that played in Germany. And I always wanted to be in a band like that played. Eventually, we made it to Hamburg and played the same places they did. Got to meet a lot of the same people they got to know. Um, it was definitely a very special time for us. And eventually, we went out to try to meet Pete, and we got to meet him, and we got to do some businessy stuff together, and played some concerts together, recorded on some songs together. So that whole thing for me was, a full circle thing, because I began because the influence he had in the band in that period. I love Ringo and all that stuff, but you know, when Pete was in the band was more like the Ramones, a lot harder,
Mhm.
a
Oh,
lot louder. Yeah.
I didn't even know that because the only Beatles that I know is like your basic stuff. Anywhere like that's in between. Um, I don't know. Love Me Do and A Hard Day's Night to uh, Yellow Submarine.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, I can never imagine the Beatles sounding like the Ramones. It's
You
like,
have to. Yeah, they were loud motherfuckers. And eventually Pete, I think, opened up the doors for us to go to different parts of the world representing, the Casbah that he was in and a bunch of other things. And it was a good period of time in my life that I got to spend with him and his family, and it was good, man. We had a good time.
wow, wow, oh my goodness. I still cannot believe that like I'm friends with someone who knew like the guy who used to play with the Beatles. I remember that for my 27th birthday, you gave me a picture with Pete's Best autograph on it. I have it in my room. I have it framed, and like I honestly
Yeah.
can't believe that I fucking have that. Like it's just it's awesome.
This very special thing from Liverpool. Yeah,
It's a really special thing to me. So I
thank
have
you.
all of the autographed pictures you sent me. I have them all framed.
Cool. Maybe they'll be worth something at some point.
I'm not gonna them. They were mine, dude. They fucking belong to me.
Yeah.
And last question: what notable musicians and producers, or like people in music, have you worked with?
I've performed with a lot, spent time with a lot, but work with probably just would have been the Rembrandts from the TV show Friends, Mark Hudson from he was Ringo's producer, worked on a bunch of stuff. Um, Rick Parker, who's worked with everybody I grew up listening to, from BRMC all the way out to Lord Hearn and Dandy Warhols. Um, then I got to work with Scott Weiland briefly before he died. We never got to complete anything. I've worked with Greg. What's his name? Greg. I can't remember his last name. My brain is escaping right now. Greg something that played with Steve Miller's band, the lead guitarist of Steve Miller's band.
Oh my gosh, I'm thinking Greg Allman did something.
No, no, no. Here, type Greg Steve Miller band on your phone. I can't do it because I'm on the phone with you.
Greg Douglas.
Greg Douglas. And of course, you got Pete Best in it. We've collaborated with Ringo on some stuff, and I'm sure there's been other really cool people in there that are escaping my mind. But that's a little list of some of the people we've been blessed to have worked and grown with from the industry.
I'm so honored to be friends with you, honestly.
Well, thank you for supporting the band and all of us, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you for hanging out with me and talking to me and, for being my friend. And I'm proud to be yours.
I
Thank you
appreciate it.
for being a guest on my podcast, even though at this point I have like 0 followers, but I'll continue doing these interviews too. And like talking to you has been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And it's important for you to keep doing what you're doing, and even though you don't think it matters, at some point
it matters. I
it's
just
going
think
to.
it matters right now, but I mean, it's tough to get these things going. I'm actually a little disappointed that I'm so proud of like the first 3 interviews that I did so far, and I just wish that like more. I mean, people do watch the videos. I do have like a bunch of views on there already, and I do have one more interview coming up at the beginning of December with Susie Moon, which I'm really excited about. And I have one more interview that I can hopefully schedule with a guitarist from a local heavy metal band. And so a lot of
You should
excitement.
do an interview with Greg, man. It'd be short, but it'd be
I would, even if it would be short, if I
reach
did
out to him. Yeah, but it'd be good. Like when you look in Greg's face, you see fucking everything, you know?
wow, I'll keep that in mind. I will definitely keep
Yeah.
that close.
Well, thank you, and we'll see you soon. And I'll bring you some back from Australia.
Please do so. Please bring me something back, and I will see you in Hollywood.
See you soon.
Bye.
Rock and roll.